Well, hello and welcome to Electric Virgins, a podcast brought to you with Green Flag that puts celebrities into electric cars for the first time and then finds out what they really think of them. I'm Ginny Buckley.
And I'm Tom Ford, but not the good or the famous one. Ha ha ha. So, Ginny, let's not waste any time this week. Who is our electric virgin?
Now, our guest today is famous for being a Blue Peter presenter, a Sky Sports host, and he's done more than 40 solo skydives with the RAF, which I think when we added them up was just a few more than you, Tom, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it's about 40 more. Blatantly a massive overachiever. But obviously, I know who this is because I'm an excellent guesser. But for our listeners, can you give us a few more clues?
You're a really rubbish guesser. I'll give loads more clues. He's also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and Mont Blanc. He's given a Blue Peter badge, wait for this, to the Queen.
That's the coolest fact.
To the Queen. And he is president of the fantastic charity Blood Cancer UK.
Actually, that's the best one.
He is the absolutely wonderful Simon Thomas. Simon, welcome to the Electric Virgins podcast. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello. What an intro.
Simon, we had to kind of cut it down massively because, goodness me, you do so much stuff. You are busy.
Yeah, I have to say, when you start reeling off the BP stuff, because that's a while ago. I left in 2005, so it feels like another lifetime. But sometimes when people remind you of stuff and they'll read off a couple of things, and obviously because of the recent Platinum Jubilee, I've retold the Gold Blue Peter badge a few times. But it just feels like another lifetime, and you kind of do have to pinch yourself and say, you actually did all that. It just feels a very long time ago.
Anyway, we know you love sport. We know you love Blue Peter badges. But what is your relationship with cars? Have you ever driven an electric car before?
No.
And are you into cars?
Yeah, I am. I wouldn't describe myself as a massive petrol head. I think my first real interest came through my uncle, so my dad's brother, Uncle Graham, who's sadly no longer with us. But he used to restore. So in his retirement, he worked for the Bank of England for years. Retired at 55, the lucky thing, had a rather large pension and ploughed it all in his time into restoring classic cars.
Oh, my dream.
And when we used to go and visit his house in Kent, which they'd bought because it had the largest triple garage I'd ever seen, in there was this treasure trove of either cars he was working on. So he had a Lagonda, a Beardmore, he had an Austin 7, all sat in this garage. And I remember actually we went down into the garage and it was a really surreal experience because you were kind of looking at all these things. And we all know in life that when you go, you can't take all your earthly stuff with him. But there were all these cars, 4 of them, I think, in the end, that he ploughed so many years into. So I had a real love of kind of classic cars. I mean, I've never owned something spectacular. I've had a kind of MG back in the day, soft top, which I absolutely loved, but it was practical. Really bad news in terms of when Ethan arrived. It was no use at all. Just 2 seats, a tiny boot. But, you know, I love my cars. And actually, my neighbour's got 2 electric cars. So that's been my only brush with the electric version.
Have you been
of
in
motoring.
them before? Have you passed?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, he's taken me to football a few times and he often gives Ethan, my son, a lift to various things. I have been in them quite a number of times, but never ever sat behind the steering wheel.
So we were the first people silly enough to actually give you the keys to one, were we? Because your neighbours banned you from driving his. Damn. Okay,
He didn't say banned. He just said he'd taken him to the football. It's not some sort of joyrider.
Okay, well, listen, let's find out what car we gave you. And I do hope that Uncle Graham would have been happy with the choice of car. It was tricky because you are, as we've already established, a man of many talents. But we thought you needed something sporty, but obviously something that's big enough for your son. And I guess to use a sporting analogy and a cheesy joke, we wanted a perfect all-rounder.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes, like it.
Did you like that?
Yeah, nice.
We ended up with the CUPRA Born. It's sort of a sportier, more cooler version of the VW ID3. So let's listen to your first impressions when your electric car arrived outside.
This is a very, very good-looking car, if I'm honest. Not all electric cars I've seen are particularly good-looking, but this CUPRA, it's beautiful. And the front, it's got this lovely, lovely grille with this kind of copper colour around it and copper on the CUPRA writing on the front. It looks quick. I've no idea if it is, but it looks really, really quick.
I love that.
It's such a lovely grille.
And I love the fact that it looked quick.
Yeah.
What was it that made you feel it looked quick?
It's got a lovely shape to it and also just the finish on it. You know, some cars just, aren't quick yet you look quick. And as I'm sure we'll come on to talk about, it was quick. But actually, my wife, Tarina, she's easily pleased when it comes to the look of cars. Straight away, she said, I love the look of this car. Totally binned off the car we've already got. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. It was like a new man had walked into her life.
You're abandoned immediately.
Yeah.
They look like a trainer that a young person would wear.
What, the CUPRA
That's a
Born?
really good example.
It's
It
a
looks
really
like a
good
trainer.
example.
And I
Yeah.
always look at it and go, I don't know why it looks faster than the ID3, which is exactly the same car, but a bit more conservative.
Yeah.
It just looks faster.
Yeah, it does. And it was.
What did Ethan make of it when he first saw it?
Well, Ginny, you know what kids are like. It basically ticks the box because it's got a massive big screen in the middle. He said that's like an iPad. So massive box ticked as soon as he sat down. I mean, I did give him a little bit of an experience of the speed of it as well, which did slightly shock him when he was pinned into his seat as I shoved the old accelerator down on a national speed limit road,
Absolutely.
I should add.
Absolutely.
But no, it was the screen. He was just playing around with it. What does this do? But that's the thing about kids. He's 12 now, so he worked it out very, very quickly. Far quicker, actually, than I did.
And he had to show you that's what happens.
Yeah.
Honestly, Simon, my boy is 12 as well. And I get cars into tests and it's literally like, right, Zach, come on, just get in this one, show me how the screen works and the infotainment
That's
works.
got
It's so
nothing.
much
That's
quicker than me
because
figuring
Zach's
it out.
really good at that sort of stuff, and you're
Yeah.
absolutely rubbish. She can't. The heat seat button is the only one she can find.
Can't say
I
that.
can,
But
you are rubbish.
I'm a highly qualified automotive journalist, don't
Oh,
you
you're
know?
a good driver. You're just terrible with tech.
All right, let's move this on, shall we? Let's find out what you thought about how it did drive, because, this is a good one. Let's have a listen.
One thing I've noticed, particularly when you're driving around built-up areas where you're going quite slowly, is that because the car is so quiet, you hear everything else. So you hear all the little imperfections in the road. So if you go over one in this car, you can really hear it. But you're much more aware of the way the car's interacting with the road. Oh, that's a bit of an odd thing to say, but because you can't really hear the hum of the engine like you would on a petrol or diesel car, you're kind of much more aware of all the other sounds, which is, I don't know, it's just different. But I like it.
Well, you did like it, but you also liked, I'm going to go straight into this one, you also liked something else about that car quite a lot. So let's listen to this.
This car does look sporty, so I'm just going to give the accelerator a little squeeze. Right, here we go. Oh, my days. That's good. Wowzers. That's taken me by surprise. This has got some serious poke. I just thought all the sporty looks on the outside were for kind of effect, but this actually is quick.
That's instant electricity that gets you every time.
That's the single biggest difference I found in terms of driving it. I mean, I know I was talking there about the sounds, but the first time, because I've never owned a really, supersonic quick car. I've owned a couple of quick cars, but there's always that lag when you stick your foot down. There's feels like a forever, and then it kicks in and it goes. This, I've never driven a car where it's instant. And it kind of pins you back in your seat. And, I'm sure you'll tell me it's not that quick, but that was the biggest change for me, was just the instant response to putting your foot down.
It's the reaction to it, isn't it? It always makes people go, oh my gosh, that's how that works. It tails off after sort of 50 miles an hour, a little bit in those kind of cars. Pulling away from the traffic lights and stuff, they're always like pretty quick.
Oh, it's magnificent. Yeah.
I think what was interesting for me listening to those two clips together was that with electric cars, you're so aware of your surroundings, aren't you?
Yes.
Then you put your foot down and the speed is, it's quite a contrast, isn't it?
Yeah, and it makes this sound, which I don't think the microphone picked up, that it's like a very sort of different sounding, slight tones of a jet engine. You can just hear something going through it. Yeah, and I really loved it. I just loved that sound. It sounded like, I'm traveling in something really quick here. But then when you're just pottering around, I really liked that just stillness, the quietness of just, you feel like you're kind of gliding until you hit a Buckinghamshire pothole. But the rest of it, you feel like you're gliding.
The weird thing is that you don't realise how much an engine covers up the rest of the noise, do you?
No, not until you drive one of these.
So suddenly, it's all a bit like, oh, I can hear going over a speed bump. The first bit of your clip then, you heard you go over a speed bump or into a pothole or something. I don't think you'd have caught that noise. And a lot of people who are making electric cars now are realising that they've got to have better sealing so you can't hear the wind rush, and they've got to make the suspension quieter because there's no engine noise.
So is the idea going forward to make it as calm a sound experience as possible?
Well, there's the argument. Some people want more noise, as in they want to hear more stuff, as in they want the motor to make a bit more of a whine to give them impression of speed. Some people want it to be completely quiet.
Yeah.
And so there's a bit of an argument going on.
It was interesting just listening to some of your clips and just think about your experience, because how did you go on with the range side of things, with the whole amount of range that you've got on your battery? Did you find that stressful, or because you didn't really seem to get too stressed about that?
No, I don't. To be honest, Ginny, I don't get massively stressed about much in life anymore. I mean, Doreen, my wife, did find it more stressful. She would constantly be looking at the numbers on the screen and saying, do you think you need to charge it? I think what I would find stressful, and this was kind of in my mind, the debate as to whether this is a good idea at the moment, if we were to go down the electric route, is what's available round where I live. Because the 2 times that I charged it, I was having to plug it into the mains here. And as you guys will know, and anyone who owns an electric car will know, that's a very, very slow process. It's nearly empty. It's a good 24 hours.
It is, but obviously, if you've got access to off-street parking, you'd have a home charger fitted. And then you do that fantastic thing of going to bed, plugging your car in, you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
I think with the challenges perhaps come a little bit when you want to go further afield and you're relying on the public charging infrastructure. And let's listen to this.
I've just heard some nightmare stories. My neighbour has got a Peugeot and they go on holiday to Cornwall quite a bit. And one thing he did is he didn't read, classic bloke thing, didn't read the manual and didn't look at how extra weight in the car, as in people and luggage, affects the range of the battery. And their little trip from Buckinghamshire to Cornwall took 15 hours.
What? What happened? What did he do?
I'm sure you guys will tell me, and I started to learn this over the week that I had the CUPRA, is you've got to kind of plan in terms of journeys, in terms of having your battery fully charged. I think he did admit, my neighbour, that the guy selling in the car had told him this, but I think it didn't really register. And off they went. I mean, it went on a full charge. They got down the first bit of the journey, but then the battery's beginning to run out quicker than he thought because he's got 3 kids, a wife, and luggage. So having driven it around here a lot with maybe just 1 or 2 others in the car, and he was getting decent range, starts on a long journey and it's going down a lot quicker. And then, of course, I don't know how, I'm sure you know how these kind of things work, but in terms of getting to a service station, he's got the app and stuff. He'd get there and find that the really rapid charge points were all taken up because it was summertime. Mm-hmm. And so they were sitting there on some of the slower charge points, waiting 3-4 hours to then start the next bit of their journey. That was the worry I had if I got one around here. Obviously, I could charge it at home. But if say, I needed a really rapid charge done, because I think it's called the Zap app, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I got that. And I actually thought it was a really good app because what it does is it tells you where the available fast charge points are around where you live. The only problem is that I would look at them all and underneath people leave reviews. Now, you know, guys, that in life people don't leave good reviews.
No, they only ever leave bad ones.
And there was a lot of bad reviews. There was one that's about a mile away from here, so I thought I could go and because I wanted to go and give it a test just to see, how rapidly it works, what I could do if I was going to go down there and get it rapidly charged. That one, the review says not worked in the last 6 months. Another one not too far away from me said, went there, and it was only 2 days before I was looking at the app, went there Tuesday, plugged the car in, went into town for a couple of hours, came back, it had done nothing. Yeah. So that's the only thing in my mind I'm thinking until my local network gets better. Obviously, I'd get the proper equipment installed here at home. That's still at the moment what would count against me going fully electric.
It's the fear.
I think we're in a really interesting point with infrastructure because it's been a bit like, I said, it's a bit like the Wild West. So you've had all these individual companies putting chargers in all over the place. A few were going in a car park, some others would go in, in the back of a, Holiday Inn or something. And then often they've not been looked after properly. Companies might have been bought by other companies. So we're at a point where there is loads of charging infrastructure. It is definitely getting better. But there are a lot more electric cars on the road, as your neighbour found out. There are waits now. So I think we're at this point now where it's all starting to come together. we are not there yet, and it's got to start moving really quickly, because the challenges are not when you charge at home, as you will do, it's when you want to do a long journey. And that's potentially where you do get the issues at the minute.
And I'm assuming that with your job, somebody could say to you, tomorrow you've got to be in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So you might rely on public charging, and you want it to be really seamless. I mean, I've done road trips where every single thing has worked, and it's taken me no longer to do that road trip.
Yeah.
And then when it's bad, it can be really bad.
It's very, very horrid.
Well, that's a really good point, because I actually got a call through on Friday night. Now, the CUPRA had gone by this point, but I got a call very late on Friday from BBC Sunday Morning Live saying, there's a filming shoot happening tomorrow. Are you able to head down to the South Coast? It's some boys who are rowing the Atlantic in a few months' time. And I said, yeah, I am. Actually, I am free and I can go. But of course, I've got my own car, my own diesel car. So it was no problem. Now, if I'd still had the CUPRA or had an electric car and I haven't fully charged it, then that becomes maybe a little bit more complicated in terms of, am I going to get enough in it to get down to Portsmouth? And maybe actually once I get there, am I going to be having to hang around a couple of hours to get it charged to get home? So that's where maybe at the moment it would get more complicated.
It's a really interesting point, actually, because for me, I think the big switch we've got to make with electric is making new habits. So we're really used to, aren't we, letting our cars go right the way down with petrol and diesel. I'm terrible, as you know.
Especially now.
Yeah, exactly. You put in what you need.
We call her the Amber Light Warrior.
I am one of those people who would always run it low. And like you say, particularly now, who's filling up their tank fully now?
Well, my wife hates it because I'm a no-range Neil. I will. I will let it. I can let it get down to naught. And then think,
that's
right,
bad for the car. There's loads of things it should do.
Nothing will make you change that habit. If you are that person, you are that person.
There's an argument though at the minute where if everywhere has what's called destination charging, so if every hotel you went to had an overnight charger at it, and every pub you went to and every place you went to, it's called grazing. So every time you turn up, you just plug your car in because there's the facility there. And they're cheaper to put in than those big, massive rapid chargers that you see. So if everywhere you went, you just plugged your car in when you parked, you would never get range anxiety because the car would top itself up all the time.
That's a really good point, because I had the car leading up to the Platinum Jubilee weekend. So on the Thursday, the first of the bank holidays, we went as a family to Waddesdon Manor, which is about a half an hour drive from here. And it's a beautiful National Trust house, if anyone's been there. Massive, massive grounds. And we went there for the afternoon. And when we got there, now I didn't need to charge the car, and it was plenty of charge in it, and we could get there and back with ease. So off we went. And when I got there, it was a very nicely kept National Trust car park, but there were at least 8 fast charge points in the National Trust car park in this area of countryside. So I guess, Tom, that's what you're talking about, just those little points where you can just top up.
Yeah, that really came across, I think, in your week. So let's listen to this clip, because I think it's about often just learning new stuff and making new habits, and that's half the battle with going electric. Let's take a listen.
You're kind of with an electric car learning a new language. So on the big screen, I've just put in the display where you can see what the car's doing, and instead of miles per gallon, it's got miles per kilowatt, which is telling me 3.2, which I'll be honest means absolutely nothing to me. I don't know if that's good, that's bad, and it's telling me, to be honest, I've got to learn a new language here. I don't know what a lot of this stuff means.
Yeah, it's new stuff, isn't it?
I know how fast you were driving.
Do you? What? How fast?
You'd been doing a lot of heavy acceleration at that point, or you'd been on a motorway. It's one of the two.
I'd be doing a lot of heavy acceleration, yeah.
There you go.
And that's the thing. Did you realise how much new stuff there was to learn with an electric car? Was that an eye-opener for you?
Yeah, I think the language in terms of working out what it's doing, because obviously having driven petrol and diesel cars for as long as I can remember,
it's ingrained.
I know what to look at, and I'll have my miles per gallon on the dash, and so I'll know. And I've got a Volvo XC90, and I just always put it in economic mode, particularly on long journeys. And I'm always keeping an eye on what it's doing and thinking, just keep the acceleration down, keep it 70 on the motorway, and all those kind of things, which goes against what I want. I know that's legal, but you want to go a bit quicker, get there a bit quicker, but I don't. So it's kind of just adjusting yourself to looking at the screen and going, okay, that
means this.
That's what that means in terms of whether I'm driving particularly efficiently at the moment.
So your miles per kilowatt hour is basically like your MPG. It's a measure of efficiency. So your battery's measured in kilowatt hours, which is how big your battery is. If you're getting, say, 3 miles per kilowatt hour, your entire range is 3 times what your battery capacity is. But the trouble is, I'm crap at maths. So I haven't just had to learn new terminology. I've also got, it's like if you play darts, you get better at mental arithmetic.
You do.
If you get an electric car, you get better at mental arithmetic as well.
Yeah, you do.
Another reason for getting one.
And then there's the other thing is, to add into that, if there's all those things like, your neighbour who went off on his holidays with the car loaded up, and that has an impact at extra weight, and driving a car in winter when it's cold because the batteries don't like that.
The way Simon Thomas drives things.
Yeah, they also don't like the way you drive, which is really being quite heavy on your right foot.
Hey, listen, it was only in those little stretches.
You were testing. You've
got to test these things,
It's absolutely fine.
But you do learn as you go along, don't you? You learn how to get the best out of your car. And I think particularly at the moment for petrol diesel cars, we're all, well, I certainly am, learning the most efficient way to get from A to B. That, I think with electric cars, it would be just a case of learning as you go as to how you get the best out of it and get the best range.
That's exactly right.
Now, Simon, we electrified you for a week. So we think you're a bit of an expert by now.
No, I'm really not.
Oh, you are?
So
Yeah, well,
unfair.
you are. We're going to test your knowledge because I'm sure you read all the manuals and, you genned up on everything. You read all the guides that we sent you, didn't you?
Yeah,
didn't
kind
you?
of.
No, we bloody did.
No, I
Did
did.
you
I
read
did
the
read those.
You've been scouring electrifying.com for all the information
Yes.
about how to go electric. Anyways, as I'm sure you know, together with Green Flag, we have a word of the day that appears on our site every morning.
Oh, yeah.
You were aware of
it's
that.
Word of the day.
Don't do
I
that.
love the theme tune. I invented the theme tune on my own. What we want to do is just to see whether you've been paying attention. So what we're going to do is give you a description of a common electric car term. It's very common. You have been using it. There's a hint. And all you have to do is choose the correct answer. Right? It's dead
Okay.
easy.
Okay, drum roll, please. Simon Thomas, what is the term for an electric car charging cable that has a 3-pin socket and can be used only in emergencies, ideally, to add some range? Is it A?
A snail charger.
Is it B?
A granny charger.
Or is it C?
A slow coach charger. And if you don't get this, I'm going to sack you.
Which one? So, snail charger, granny charger, or slow coach charger?
Yeah, snail charger.
That's terrible. It's the one you would. It's a granny charger. Fail.
So, granny.
Why is it called a granny charger?
I think it's called a granny charger. I hope anyway, because it's when you go to visit your granny, she would never had a home charger unit, a home charger installed, so you'd have to plug it into the 3-pin. I hope it's that reason, and nothing.
We were going to come up with
implied.
another name for it because we thought it was a bit weird against grannies.
All right, maybe we just from now on, Simon, you've come up with a solution. We'll start calling it a snail charger because that works too.
I did have a bit of a mess with the chargers at first because...
Oh, go on.
I should have just chatted to my neighbour, actually.
You should be, what a brilliant idea. Talk to someone who's been running electric cars
Who
for
has
years.
2 electric cars, literally 20 yards away. Because I sort of brought the extension cable out of the garage, plugged it all in, popped the cable into the side of the car. The white light went to green, and I thought, lovely. Went back to the lounge, watched a bit of telly, just sort of peeped actually from where I'm sat now in the window just to look out, and the light was red. And it kept happening.
Did it not like the extension cable?
No. So what I did is actually where I'm sat here, I fed the cable through the window.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Direct into the mains, and it remained green. The problem was, though, is that although the window was still half locked, because I had to leave a gap, my wife Ginny wasn't overly happy about overnight there just being a slightly ajar window downstairs for security reasons. I managed to persuade her. I said, look, it won't be fully charged in the morning if I don't do it. But I learned that lesson very quickly. You can't just bang it into an extension lead. It can't cope with it. It's got to go straight into the mains.
Can I ask a question? Why didn't you just go knock on the door of your lovely neighbour who's got 2 electric cars and a home
plug it in.
charger and just say, could I charge my car at yours overnight?
Ginny, you know why. This is a stupid male pride thing, isn't it? We want to work these things out ourselves. We don't want to admit failure or defeat, so we battle on and waste 4 hours of charging, going to and fro from the lounge, going, why is the light flipping red again? Plug it back in, goes green, come back again, it's gone red again. It's pride, basically.
Could have rung me.
And nearly shorted your house in the process by doing the one thing you really shouldn't do, which is use an extension cable into a 3-pin to charge your electric car. Oh, Simon.
But the car was fine.
It's fire risk. Thomas is back in the room.
But the good thing, though, about, if you do have any kind of little mishaps with your electric car, the great thing is that Green Flag will come out if you are unlucky enough for that to happen. They will send a specialist from your closest garage and they will come to give you a hand.
Do you know what? I've heard they'll do that day or night.
They will do that day or night. Don't panic. Yeah,
they will. Like, even if it's dusk.
You'll get covered if you need to get to the chippy. Don't worry.
Would they have come out to help someone who's just being a bit of a charging numpty?
No, they'll just laugh at you over the phone.
Well, yeah, they might laugh at you first, but then they will come out to help you. And it's interesting, actually, because electric cars actually don't break down in the same way that traditional cars do, because they've got really few moving parts. Only 20 moving parts in an electric car, Simon. Did you know that?
Well, I have to say, I opened the bonnet on it because this is my natural curiosity, and it's as soon as you do, you realise how it's just very different. It looks so much simpler than if I opened the bonnet on my car in terms of what's in there.
You were at the wrong end for that car.
Was I?
Because the motor and all the rest of the stuff is at the back. It's rear drive.
Is it? Ah.
We've listened to your audio diaries.
Yes.
I actually get the impression that you quite liked it, didn't you?
I'm going to be honest enough, Tom, to say I was a little bit sad when it went. Yeah, and Darina was sad as well. We were like, oh.
And you were okay with the charging side because you actually sort of started to see how you could do it, even if it wasn't the best in the week.
Yeah, I think I would need... What I didn't do in the week that I had it just because of work and stuff is I didn't do a truly long distance in it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the questions I had is, thankfully my mum is in good health, but she lives in North Norfolk in Cromer. So that's around about 145 miles from where I am in Buckinghamshire.
Really weirdly, I was there in Norfolk and I went in an electric car not long ago. And actually there's some really good charging hubs that have just opened up there, which are, we're talking about the infrastructure changing a lot. There were a few. There was not just the big one in Norwich, the big GridServe one. And they were brilliant because they were fast charging, loads of them. So it's quite refreshing. But you're right. What you need to do is to see that, to know that if your mum needs you, there is somewhere you could go and you could charge. So it's about that, I guess, is it?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I'd want to see better around here is just the local infrastructure. Because coming back, Ginny, to something you said earlier, is a lot of those fast charge points here are just single ones in really random locations. Like there's a theatre near here called the Elgiva Theatre. There's one in there, but it's just one. It's been out of order for 6 months. So I think when the infrastructure really begins to catch up, I said to Darina, I said, look, I think, this is definitely something I want to think about in the future in terms of my next car. But I think locally, I'd want to see things get a bit better before taking that jump.
Okay, so I think I know your answer to this, but would you, Simon Thomas, consider for your next car an electric vehicle?
Yes, I would. And I would say that prior to having the CUPRA, and not just because it was the CUPRA, because it gave you sense of what it would be like to have, electric car. Okay, I didn't have the long journey to count into that. Is that, by the end of it, I thought, actually, I could make this work. I haven't even experienced what it's like to have a proper charging point at home, so things to be quicker on that front. So by the end of it, I thought, I'd want to do this next time round.
Oh, that is absolutely brilliant. Well, you have been an absolute joy. Thank you for being such a good sport.
It's great.
Converted.
It does seem, the perfect time to end the podcast. And thank you, Simon, for giving up your time selfishly.
Absolute pleasure.
Selflessly. Even selflessly. Thank you,
It was so
Simon.
selfish of you to take the car back.
I think that's every time.
You've been an absolute joy, and we are really happy that we have converted you to the cause.
It was easy, apparently.
Yeah, I'm easily pleased.
He's very easy, is this, Thomas?
Well, that is it for this week. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed hearing about Simon's first time, oh God, I don't believe this is
this bit. It always sounds really creepy.
And let's face it, we never forget our first time, do we, in an electric car I'm talking about. Please do like, subscribe, share, spread the word. And if you want to know more about electric cars, we've got everything you need to know about making the switch over at electrifying.com.
Thank you, Simon Thomas.
Goodbye.
Pleasure, guys.